This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Wright Honda and Wright Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. You may have heard a story about an NSX owner driving around, went down to Key West, Florida, went up through Alaska to the Arctic Circle, and is touring around the United States. That person is Johnny Lange, and Johnny Lange joins me in studio today after this word from Arcus Foundry, SparkForge. So quick story for you. A listener lost a big job, missed the call, never saw the DM, probably because he was listening to this podcast. It happens, and it's fixable. Running a business shouldn't mean juggling a dozen apps and missing opportunities. SparkForge helps you reply faster, capture more leads, and get more reviews, all without adding hours to your day. One simple place to handle calls, texts, and social messages so you can focus on the work that pays. It's like finally putting your business on cruise control without losing the steering wheel. One login, one platform, all under your control. Consolidate your tech in one place to save time, money, and headache. The future is here, and it's powered by SparkForge AI from our friends at Arcus Foundry. Jump into a 30-day trial today by using code HARDPARKED at getsparkforge.ai and stop letting yesterday's tech eat tomorrow's profits. Johnny Lange, welcome to Hard Parking. Welcome back.
Thank you. First time in the studio.
Do you remember the last time? I think, how many times have you been on the show? Do you know? I was going to look it up. I got lazy.
I think twice. I think
one of the times I was in a closet.
Yeah, probably.
Those people who are new to the podcast, when I was first starting out, when I traveled Palm Springs, I was staying at a golf course and I was recording because I used to record all these segments from the hotel room, looking for guests, fun guests. I fell in love with you because your voice.
Thanks.
And I called you from a closet because something was going on out there, and I needed a space that was sound dampened, but it still sounded like shit because I didn't really understand how to edit properly.
And I took pity on you. My friend's doing a podcast in a closet. I should probably just be on it.
Absolutely, and I appreciate it. But you've avoided me ever since.
Yep.
On the podcast, not in life.
Yep.
I love you. You know, you're one of my favorite people in this world. You said you don't believe in coincidences. We're going to talk about that because I kind of talked about you a little bit because you did the road trip, started it in Asheville, went down to Key West, the southernmost point of the United States, up through Alaska, the Arctic Circle-ish, sort of.
Yep.
Yes and no, right?
Still yes.
Yeah, back down through NSXPO. And then you're doing this big tour around the U.S. And visiting a lot of your friends. And some enemies, people you've promised time with, like me. So here you are.
Suck it up and deal with it.
But before I continue to ramble, I've decided. So you bought me this, or you got this for me.
Yeah, it was a gift to me, so I gifted it to you.
And I thank you because you don't drink.
Nope.
And then I was like, well, what are we gonna do?
But it's my friend's company out of Colorado. So
is it still around?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I'm holding here is from Black Cherry Distillery, which is from or used to be from a place in Colorado, certified organic by Oregon Tilth. But this is the Unicorn Riot organic vodka. And you could tell by the colors, it's friendly. And I'm friendly because of this.
I'm friendly too.
Yeah, this is back at a time when it was okay to not politically like rainbows and colors. But you've gave this to me in 22. In 2022, and I'm going to crack this bottle for the first time ever. And it's got like this Denver horse, I'm assuming.
Well, it's a unicorn.
Unicorn. Yes. It's got this orange. Well, before you could become a unicorn, you have to have genetic for a horse, right?
Start as a Mustang.
This is a bionic unicorn. And I'm going to open it up for the first time.
Probably 3 years, yep.
Smells like vodka, so we're off to a good start.
I'm sure it's probably going to taste like vodka too.
Going to put it in my Great Lakes cup here. Here we go. And you are drinking some fine cola.
I'm drinking a carbonated beverage. We're not.
Yeah, that's right. You're drinking a carbonated beverage that you wanted to take without ice at room temperature, and I said, no, you're not doing this.
No, not an animal.
But can we cheers that?
Yeah, we can. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. And I also don't trust you, so I gave you a plastic cup.
Good. Don't trust me.
Yeah.
Yep. Probably tastes like vodka.
How'd you know?
Yeah.
You know what? It tastes like organic vodka.
Good.
Yep. So it's not the worst vodka I've had, so I appreciate it.
Good. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's also not the best.
Yeah. Well, that went without saying.
So officially,
Yep.
kind of tell the people who are new to you, because there are going to be some people new to you,
Yep.
who you are a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think nobody really knows anyway.
Including myself. So my name is John Lange, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina, western part of the state. 40 years old, and I've been passionately involved in the NSX community for probably about 11 years now. And one of my favorite things to do is just drive an NSX around. And so that's what I've done the majority of the past 11 years, and every year seems to get a little bit more wild.
How did we meet? Do you remember? Because I don't. I was trying to think about that.
I know we had exchanged some conversation on like the forum online, but I think we met because what was your screen name? TJ or something like that, or
Teach.
yeah. And so we had correspondence there, but I think the actual first time I met you was in 2017 at Road America in Wisconsin.
Okay.
NSXPO.
Yeah, because wasn't your NSX black?
Yeah, I was driving a black one at the time.
And I think Acura did a story on you.
Yeah, they did a small little feature on me because I'd done, a drive up there, and the car was high mileage too. I think probably. It's interesting, actually. I look back on some records on this trip, and I ran over 200,000 on that trip, I think, as well.
Good Lord.
Yep. So it's like that car rolled over 200, and then on this current trip, my white NSX, I rolled over 200 as well. So.
And you were just saying downstairs at dinner, just on this trip, you rolled 17,000 miles.
Yeah, I'm over 17.
Over 17.
Yeah. It's going to be probably cumulative total 3 months since I left Asheville. But in those 3 months, there's probably going to be about 17 or 18 days, if I had to ballpark it, that I didn't drive the NSX. I went to left Asheville, and then I went to Florida, and then I came back to Asheville for 9 days. And then after NSXPO, I left my NSX in Portland and flew back to North Carolina for 8 days. So roughly about that I haven't driven. So it'll be about a 2.5 month drive for the NSX.
So I'm trying to think of, okay, how do I remember you? I do remember Wisconsin. I remember you as a guy that had a bunch of spare parts in your car in case somebody broke down, which I thought was awesome. And I think someone did break down on one of the cruises.
I mean, it's definitely happened. I can't remember all the times that it has, but it definitely does happen.
I remember you as one of the first people, if not the first person that I had communications with that dealt in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm like, what is this crazy stuff? And I mean, you and rest in peace, Chris Cutt,
Mm-hmm.
Two of my friends that's all you guys seem to dealt with is crypto.
Yep.
And you drive a lot. Like Tyson, you drive a lot, but in a way it's different because you do a lot of camping. For this trip specifically, why? Why this trip?
Well, first and foremost, I kind of build my yearly schedule around NSXPO. So NSXPO being in
My man.
Yeah.
It's the one of the two things every year I circle on my calendar.
Yeah, so it's like I kind of start from there and build outward. And NSXPO being in Seattle, Tacoma area, obviously that's what I'm doing. But then I had, thoughts of, okay, I'm driving out there, what else? And like I had mentioned at dinner, is I've driven an NSX across the Mexican border and driven around Mexico in an NSX. So naturally I thought I should go to Canada. And then things creeped on, and I thought I should probably drive to Alaska. And then if I'm going to go to Alaska, I should consider the Arctic Circle. And then if I'm considering the Arctic Circle, then I could leave Asheville, North Carolina, and just drive, the 3-4 hours to like Charleston, South Carolina, and start on the Atlantic. But then I started thinking more that if I'm really going to do the trip, I should drive from where I live, 1,200 miles down to Key West and start in Key West. So that's basically what I did. And then I decided, I can go from Key West to the Arctic Circle and then back. So my kind of ballpark guesstimation when I first left the trip was about 21 or 22,000 miles total for this. And so I'm at 17 and change now, and I'm in Phoenix. So I probably have another 4,000 left to go. So I'll be pretty close to what I was guessing I'd be doing.
What are some of the crazy stuff that you go, or what are some of the crazy things you've gone through, and kind of what do you do along, like how do you plan out this trip? Because you're very calculated. You typically know it's not, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to get up and figure out what I'm going to do. I just know I need to be in Salt Lake by tomorrow night. Like you're very regimented with your schedule. Like how do you figure that out?
Yeah.
And is that just a part of your hard coding?
To a degree, right? I think logistically, I've got stuff swirling in my brain all the time about where I need to be at what certain times and, who's available to meet up at these places. I do have some flexibility though, and that's like part of the whole thing is to be able to kind of, float, for lack of a better term, to make somebody's interaction or meetup happen. But overall, like when I left Asheville after Key West, I did have a number of about 280 miles a day that I had to drive. So I had to have things set up for that way. But typically what I would plan is just I do a lot of time staring at maps and just trying to crunch numbers in my head and figure out, okay, I'm going to be spending the night in this city. What are my options for the next cities to get to in the daytime? And then what are my options to camp or lodging or whatever around those places, So it's like, I try and typically think, I don't want to drive at night and look for campsites, although it happens inevitably, but I try and basically start as early as possible and maximize daytime so I can find a campsite before it gets truly dark. But now with the time change happening and, everything, it's getting harder and harder where I am looking for campsites in the dark. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's some, time frames of where I want to be at what certain places. And there's obviously some audibles, if somebody throws me out an opportunity, I'm going to make something happen to possibly take advantage of that opportunity.
When did you first start just getting in a car and driving? And what, was there something like, what happened?
Well, my first car was an Integra when I was 16. So pretty much from then on, it just snowballed and started going to Honda Tech meets when Honda Tech was still around.
Remember Honda Tech?
Yep, just connected with people on there and bouncing around kind of the Southeast and then just networking a little bit more and more. And then probably like for a period of maybe at least 5 years from my like late teens through early 20s, I wasn't really even doing anything with cars. Like I didn't even have anything fun or nothing. And then kind of just slowly started getting back into it, got another Integra, and then just one thing led to another, and 2015, I bought my first NSX. And then from there, everything continually snowballed to where I'm at now.
So the obvious question that people are going to be asking themselves as they watch this or listen to this is, doesn't this guy have a job?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I pretty much, I don't have really any commitments, no significant other and no children and no pets. So I also have a pretty minimal overhead as far as my life goes,
Sure.
So I don't really have to worry about anything that can't take care of itself. So I take care of what needs to be done, and then I go off and have some fun and kind of rinse and repeat.
I've always referred to you as Nomadic Johnny.
Yeah.
Or Johnny the Nomad. But I do know you have a house. I do know you have a home. I do know you work on, when do you have time to work on cars? Because you build NSXs.
Yeah, for sure. I'm the only one that works on any of my cars, so everything, all the cars, it's always me. I would like to say winter times is when I get a lot accomplished, but usually I'm also easily distracted during winter just as well as summer. So I just try and make it happen the best I can. And usually procrastination plays a factor. So, it's like crunch time. And this NSXPO is no exception. But everything usually falls into place at the last minute. And so I have some work to do before next year. We got about a year before NSXPO next year. So I got some surprises I'm working on, but nothing quite as wild as this current adventure that I'm on.
Best NSXPO ever?
This past year?
Yeah.
Or just generally?
I would say this past year. Like, what did you think of this Seattle one?
I mean, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I think locations were awesome. Basically scheduling was awesome. Like, I don't really think I have any hard critiques of it at all. You know, I think everything went off really, really well. Mm-hmm. And the only regret I have of every NSXPO is I wish there was more time, you know, because I reflect back after NSXPO that I'm like, oh, this person, I got to spend like 13 minutes with them and I've been waiting to see him for 5 years. But it's the same old story at every NSXPO.
You said some stuff that I think people are going to want to double click into as far as finding a campground, because you are Nomadic Johnny. You are the guy that drives his NSX literally everywhere. White NSX, white wheels, can't miss it. But you're not going to find it in front of, you know, Renaissance or
Ritz-Carlton.
The Ritz-Carlton. You're not going to find it in front of the Days Inn. You're going to, if you find it, it's going to be at a campground, possibly. Like that's one of the many things that make you unique and different. Not only just your appearance. It's if I'm trying to pick the guy in the room that's driving the NSX, I probably wouldn't pick you. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'd probably pick someone who looks like me.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, where does that? How are you able to be all of that in the same package of this person that you are? Because that's a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like, where's your truck?
Yeah. I mean, I do have a truck. I have 2 trucks, but, and I've got a adventure van as well, but the adventures always lean into the NSX because they're something incredibly special about that car. So it motivates me to want to continue doing adventures with it because of what the car means to me and what the car means to other people. And so, you know, like, I guess, you know, finding that whole balance between trying to camp and explore and travel can be pretty difficult sometimes, right? For most people. But for me, like, I just usually reflect back onto that every single night, it's going to be okay. You know, and I haven't been, you know, skunked out of a campsite yet. But it takes sometimes some creative engineering on my end to figure out where I'm going to go, you know, and like there's always curveballs that come up to me, you know, like on this trip, probably the more funny curve is I time in a campsite somewhere in Canada and I roll in at dusk and this campground is closed due to a migratory woodpecker.
No.
And so, you know, I had to basically, at this point, it's getting dark and I have to go figure out, you know, within an hour, what are my other options? And I found something, but overall, like, you know, sometimes it's easier than others to try and figure out where I'm going to go. And another NSX owner in LA actually asked me, like, why camp, you know, like so often. And for me, like, it's a bit twofold. Number one would be like, it's just a huge part of who I am. You know, I really enjoy nature and I really enjoy, like, I guess the disconnect from technology and society. But I'm also extremely extroverted sometimes, and I like to be in society. So disconnecting's big, but also too, like, budget wise is a factor, but also logistic wise is the biggest factor. You know, like a good example would be, you know, like a ski slope. So if you want to be the first guy on the ski slope in the morning and you're staying an hour away in the hotel, the guy who's camping out in the parking lot of the ski slope is going to be the one who gets the first tracks. And so for me, I'm logistically trying to stage myself where I need to be to, like, be the first one at the trailhead or be the first one on, you know, this incredible road at sunrise so I can get a clean run on it, you know, and that means more to me than, you know, like trying to be comfortable in a bed for one night.
You have the trucks, you have the travel van, and you've taken some amazing photos of just your car. You showed us some amazing photos downstairs. Like I have nothing to one up your trip to Banff. Nothing.
Yeah.
Because those photos and that's like, it's on my wife writing it down.
Yep.
We're not going to go probably because I would love to go, but I know that person.
Well, I'll keep harassing you guys.
You keep harassing because, you know, we love the outdoors, and I'm not really, I mean, you're a hiker and you're a speed hiker essentially, but you're taking your car, and I think it's awesome, and it kind of builds to it. You don't believe in coincidences, like the universe brings people together. You know, tell us some of those stories on your trip.
Yeah, I mean, there's just been a lot. Like, it's honestly kind of overwhelming at times because, you know, like how wild things can truly unfold. And some of the, I guess, better quick examples I could give out is, you know, like there's a
You can take your time too.
Yeah.
You're stuck here.
No, I know. Yeah, for sure. But just trying to rattle through like the highlight reel of the top numbers. And so I guess things would probably really start getting serendipitous would be in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I just gotten off the Dalton Highway, which is about 80 to 90 miles north of Fairbanks, and I had driven the NSX to the Arctic Circle, and I spent the night in the Arctic Circle by myself. And
Hold on, what's that like though? Because I haven't looked it up or anything, but when I hear the Arctic Circle, I don't know what comes into my mind. Elf?
Yeah, I mean
Santa Claus? Like, I don't know. The Northern Lights?
No,
what's that like?
Pretty much all of that. But
okay.
Ultimately, there's a couple different access points, and I guess to kind of give some context to the trip in the Arctic Circle is another local Phoenix owner is Tyson Hugie, and Tyson. So Tyson drove his Acura Legend to the Arctic Circle, and I had gotten a pretty heavy dose of inspiration from him doing that. And it was probably honestly like the first time I met Tyson, I asked him if an NSX could do it, and he said yes. And so that was probably 2016. I remember asking Tyson that, and so from then in my mind it was a bit of a scratch. But there's two different accesses to get to the Arctic Circle, kind of north of Fairbanks, and the main one is going to be on the Dalton Highway, which is considered one of the more extreme roads in the continent, due to its proximity to safety and road condition and all that. And so the Arctic Circle is 115 miles one way up on the Dalton. And so that's basically what I did. And for that 115 miles, it's, there's lots of video and footage online, but there's rocks that will puncture your tires, rocks that will end your oil pan, potholes that will end your car, tire rut tracks that would like swallow the NSX if I chose the wrong rut track. And just overall opportunity for disaster a lot, especially in a lowered sports car on summer tires. So there's a small window.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. There's a small window to kind of run this at best conditions, August, early September, and then, the snow moves in. And so, I just sent it, and I went and made it 115 miles. And for that 115 miles, I really don't feel like I blinked, because there's possibility everywhere for trouble. So I had an extreme amount of focus to make that happen. And in an ideal world, my goal would have been to drive to Dead Horse Prudhoe Bay, which is the actual end of the road at the Arctic Ocean. And so that would have been like an additional probably close to 280 more miles one way from where I was at. And doing the math, that'd be about 10 hours each way. And I just realized that, it wasn't worth the risk to continue, and especially too, I had weather moving in with, if you get caught on rains up there, you can also be hosed. So I just made the decision to, loop back around. So successfully, I made it on and off the Dalton, no damage. I get off the Dalton Highway, and my dad calls me, and I kind of like broke concentration and hit a massive dip, and I knew I hit quite hard. And I get back to Fairbanks, and I go to Fairbanks, and I noticed that I'd ripped my front lip off. But I basically go straight to an REI, which is basically like a camping store.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I go to an REI, and a problem with tent camping is when your tent gets full of condensation, most every morning, I have to pack it up, and it goes in the trunk all day. So usually I find having to stop at lunch break, and I'll kind of spread my stuff out to dry it out a little bit more. Because
it'll stink, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. And so I end up going to a REI, and I got all my stuff strung across the parking lot and looking like a hobo. And I'm just cooking oatmeal behind my NSX and, for lunch, and a guy comes in, and a CRV, and I can tell he wants to talk to me as he drives across the parking lot. So we ended up chatting for about 20 minutes, and he said he runs a Facebook group in Alaska and asked to take pictures of my car, and I said, yeah, that's fine. So we took pictures. Car was still super filthy. I say goodbye, and I leave, and I go across the street, and wash my car off, and then I basically go to leave Fairbanks. And so I leave Fairbanks and I'm driving towards Denali, and my phone starts getting messages on Instagram of people saying, come to the meet in Fairbanks tonight, come to the meet in Fairbanks tonight. And I already left with no design on coming back. But some other NSX friends had told me that I'd been posted on this Facebook group. And so it kind of went somewhat viral in Alaska of people seeing my car. And so I go to Denali National Park and camp out there for about 3 days. And then I head to Anchorage and spend the night in Girdwood at a little hostel. And the next morning, I had a little time to kill. So I pull into a Walmart in Anchorage. And as I pull into a Walmart, there's a kid in a pickup truck pulls in behind me. And I can tell he wants to talk to me. And he opens with, "You were just on the Dalton Highway in Alaska." I say, "Yep." And so we talk for about 15 minutes. Super nice guy. And I go inside Walmart, shop for 15 or 20 minutes. I go outside of Walmart, and there's a Bug-Eye WRX sitting next to my car. And I know that they want to talk to me.
Sure, yeah.
So they're a couple. They saw my story online, wanted to take pictures with me, talk to them.
Sounds like not a lot of activity going on up there. You were the activity.
So, I mean, to a degree, right? So we got two people that have caught me, in the wild, I guess. And so I leave there, and I'm trying to kill time this day. So I go take a drive down to Seward, and on the way down to Seward, it's a really epic road. And I'm probably left the Walmart for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and this couple's flagging me down, taking pictures. So we pull into a gas station. They had seen me online, wanted to chat me up. Super nice. And so I go in the gas station, and as I'm entering the gas station, I hear the cashier telling a person at the gas station, "Yeah, I seen that dude online. He just drove from Key West to Dead Horse, Alaska." And I yelled across the gas station. I didn't make it all the way to Dead Horse. I had to stop in the Arctic Circle, and I ended up talking to him for about 5 minutes. Then I leave, and there's another fella standing next to my car that wants to talk to me. He didn't see the post online. He just wanted to talk to me about the car, which talked to him for 10 minutes. And so all these interactions were like within an hour.
Wow.
And for me, it was kind of mind blowing because it really felt like this is what it feels like to be famous. Like I literally cannot go anywhere and people are picking me out. And Alaska's a massive state, but for some reason, there was a microscope on me in the NSX in Alaska, and everybody wanted to reach out and talk to me. So just thought that was really cool. The Alaska car scene is actually really neat. There's Anchorage has got a pretty eclectic car scene. So I seen a number of cars when I was up there, but it also makes sense because, between Fairbanks and Anchorage, most of the population in Alaska is concentrated in those areas. So that's why everybody was seeing me, and, the Facebook group, has a lot of followers, and they're condensed in those two cities. So that was probably like the coolest, biggest one as far as like, most bang for the buck as quickly as possible. But lots of little ones, along the way as well, where people were picking me out from, I had gone to Pemberton, which is a little bit north of Whistler, and I had driven in. There was a really incredible road. I believe it was Highway 99 that looped in there. It was one of the better roads I'd driven on the trip. And I was trying to camp in a campground in Pemberton, and campground was full. And so I called an audible and found another campground like 13 miles away. And it was an incredible spot. Camped out there for the night. And the next morning I went on a hike first thing in the morning. And then I go to eat some breakfast at a bakery. And side note, I forgot to precurse with this, is that about a month prior to this, a guy that I didn't know on Instagram had sent me a message saying, "If you come to Pemberton, let me know."
Now, did he know that maybe you were going to do a trip at some point, or that was just random?
No, he saw me on the trip.
Okay.
Yeah, like he had seen me on the trip. And this was also like, I guess another side note is there's a fine balance I have between like posting current status of me.
Sure.
And I really...
You don't post very often.
Yeah, I don't post very often. I rarely post a current status of where I am or what I'm doing. And it's like different reasons at different times for that. But like he had seen me on this trip and knew that I was making moves. And there's a duality behind that, because there's times where it actually hurts me that I don't post currently. I had NSX owners and S2000 owners in Calgary and Edmonton that wanted me to come by there. I mean, Warren was going to throw an NSX gathering in Edmonton for me, but I had already passed through because he didn't find out until I passed through until later. So, like there's kind of that, like I could connect more, but I also choose sometimes to kind of move a bit stealthy around, and also sporadically too. So he had seen me making my moves, and ultimately said, if you come through Pemberton, let me know. So I find this other campsite. I go hiking in the morning. I go to a bakery. I get some breakfast, and I leave the bakery. And when I leave the bakery, I turn on the main road, and I pass a white Tundra within like 2 or 3 minutes on the main drag. And it's a super small town, nothing happening here. And the Tundra high-brights me. So I put my seatbelt on and I slow down because I think there's a police up ahead.
Right.
And my phone dings, and it's this guy on Instagram that says, dude, that was you. So I turn back around, or I said, I'm turning back around. Let's meet at the industrial park. So I pull back in there, and it's him and his buddy. They both have pickup trucks, and they're both going dirt bike riding. But this guy, Dan, is an Englishman who's lived in Pemberton for like 18 years. And when he lived in England, he used to have a 96, it's not Spa Yellow. They call it
the other yellow, right?
It's technically Spa Yellow, but they have another name for it in England. And so he had a yellow NSX. He had Integra Type R. He had Civic Type Rs. He was hyper knowledgeable about Hondas. Organized the NSX Club Nuremberg meetup.
Wow! And
just blown away to see me, right? And I was blown away to see him. And so he starts pouring over details about my car that only NSX owners would know. And I'm feeling like an idiot because I had wished I told him, like, dude, I remember you sent me the message, but I totally spaced on reaching out to you. And I about drove through this middle of nowhere town without reaching out to you. And so we agreed to do dinner that night. And I went over and hung out at his house for dinner. And
what did you guys have? Do you remember?
Well, actually, he offered to cook me grilled cheese, and I denied because I stopped and got Thai on the way there from a Thai place that I wanted to try. So we were supposed to do.
That's fancy, though. Hey, come by the house, man. I'll hook you up with some grilled cheese.
I know. Well, just as you know, I was saying earlier, any home cooked meal is welcome. But there was a Thai place that was really highly reviewed. So it's funny because I say dinner, but I actually like punted his dinner so I could try the Thai place. Which was phenomenal Thai in the middle of random Pemberton.
Now, hold on. I have a feeling that grilled cheese isn't going to be very filling anyway. Like, you could probably find room for a grilled cheese after the fact.
Fair enough, but we did have tea and biscuits.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
So as a true Englishman, he put the kettle on. So, and last little fun side note of this story is, so I'm hanging out at his house, and we're hanging out drinking tea, and he basically says, let me wash your car. And I say, okay, because I can just tell what it means to him. So we get a bucket and go upstairs, and I meet his girlfriend for the first time, and he starts filling up some hot water in the sink. And his girlfriend's like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm washing a car. And she says, my car? Says, no, this guy's the guy that I just met.
Yeah.
So
this rando.
And it cracked me up because it's like, she's probably like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And
so we washed the car and hung out.
The homeless guy over there?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And, and they hadn't been dating long enough where, she'd never seen an NSX or experienced that connection, but I could just tell like how much it meant to Dan, and like,
cool.
It's a true connection with this car. And like, the NSX is a magnet as far as energy goes, and like me and the NSX, it's magnetic of what unfolds. And this was a great example of it because I almost fumbled and the universe prevented, us from not crossing paths, which was really, really cool. And then, a pile of other of these stories, along the way, right? Like little interactions, bigger interactions. Just as recently of last week when I was in Encinitas, California, I went out with a couple NSX owners for the day, and we stopped to go get something to eat, and we had about 5 guys standing around my car, and a guy walks up and instantly goes, "You were the guy who just drove to Alaska, weren't you?" And called me out in Encinitas. And I'm like, yeah, I'm still on the trip, right? 2 months later. But I guess there's a degree of like viralness that's going on. There's a couple little journalism pieces that came out of me, but between Instagram and that, enough people caught traction to understand what I was doing and what I did. But yeah, I just can't get enough of driving the car, man, because all these things continue to keep unfolding, which are really, really cool, fun stories.
You have any like close calls? Because it's just you out there with the car.
Oh yeah.
Are you almost out of gas, or did you just you ran over something and the service station closes? Like, do you have any of those strange roadside emergencies that you just happen to get lucky?
I guess I forgot to elaborate when I hit that bump when I got off the Dalton Highway, which is kind of funny because
you lost your lip.
Yeah, I lost the front lip. So, which, that was almost to be expected when I left, that I would lose that. So that would be about the, unexpected damage story. The kind of weird close calls is, so I didn't bring any gas on the Dalton Highway. I just went with a full tank of gas, which like Tyson and most everybody else, that the way they have to approach it is gas up in Fairbanks, go to the Arctic Circle, and then go north of the Arctic Circle by about another 40 miles to the one gas stop, then turn back around and go back to Fairbanks. The first gen NSX has an 18.5 gallon gas tank. So I didn't bring any spare gas cans, and I have a 6-speed transmission conversion in my car, but I just told myself I have to trust the math. And I knew it was going to be, about 420 miles round trip.
That's a lot.
And but I knew by the math the NSX could do it because I've driven so much, right? And I know what the math is. And yeah, there was this, I'd be lying if I didn't think about it. Like I wished I had brought 5 gallons with me at a couple points, but I told myself I had to continue to trust the math, and it allowed me to make it there and back. The other damage issue was the first day in Saskatchewan, Canada. I crossed the border. And because I like to camp so much, and I'm also kind of stubborn on, like, I would prefer free campsites as opposed to like state or national parks where you have to pay, $10 or $20.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you're right. And it's like, I'm not opposed to paying the $10 or $20, but also too, like, I think the bigger reason why I prefer the campsites away from the parks, right, is because I would prefer to just be camping by myself. It's less about the money and more about, like, I just like to be away from everybody.
Because those other things, you still have neighbors.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
You're at 311 and you have 312 and they've got a full RV, and then you have whatever, right?
Yeah, and it's like, depending on the campground, some have closer proximity than others, you know, or you can hear somebody roll over in their sleeping bag. But ultimately, so I went on this search for this free campsite, and I drove like the siltiest, sandiest, dustiest road one could imagine for about 2 hours before I found this campsite. And I got turned around, and GPS was sending me all sorts of ways, and I found it, and it was awesome, and it worked out great. But then I noticed the following day that I had a squeak when I pushed in my clutch pedal. And then I noticed that pedal pressure was like vague or grabby or sticky.
Yeah.
And so I quite wasn't unsure what was going on, but I knew something wasn't happy. And so I needed to get an oil change in Canada on the way to Alaska. And so I had just found a town and basically went to 4 different oil lube, quick lube shops.
Were people afraid to touch the car?
Well, no. I mean, I think people were afraid to take my take my proposal, and my proposal was nobody touches the car but me. And so I've got my own oil and I've got my own filter in the car, and ultimately I want to pay somebody to let me change my own oil because I don't trust anybody to work on the car, with very rare exception of other NSX owners.
Hey, no judgment. People into different things. You're into paying people to watch you change oil.
Well, that too, but I mean, I'm also happy to pay a valet to let me park my own car, which I've done a number of times just because I don't want anybody touching the car. And ultimately, I found it took me about 4 shops, but with the help of a local Canadian guy that kind of took me under his wing, we found a 4th shop that agreed to let me pay $50 to let me change my own oil. So I did, and I got down in the pit. And when I did that, the other big reason I wanted to do that is I took the dust boot cover off the bell housing where the clutch slave meets the transmission fork, and it was like somebody coughed dust out of the bell housing, and all the contact points were just caked in dust. So I soaked what I could in silicone spray, and the pedal pressure got better and the squeak went away for a little bit, but it's ultimately ended up coming back. And so what's happened is basically there's got some debris on a metal collar around the input shaft of the transmission that the throw-up bearing rides on, and it's just not fun in first gear. But I'm just going to keep sending it. You know, the clutch isn't slipping, and I have all the new parts back home if I need to go get them to me. But right now, I'm just going to go 5,000 miles, continue, you know. So between those 2 bits, those were like the damage side of the story. I mean, granted, a ton of rock chips and, you know, dust and dirt and stuff like that. But those were the 2 bits. And I met a photographer in Canada, and he actually kind of jokingly called me out that I messed up my transmission because I'm too stubborn to pay for a hotel.
Nah, come on.
Which is partially true, though. I mean, it's like I ultimately, you know, if I would have paid the $100 and stayed in a hotel that night, none of this transmission issue would exist. But ultimately, too.
But it could have been the next road.
Yeah, it could have. Yeah, anything can happen at any time. So it is what it is. So I mean, those were damage, you know, issues as far as like spooky, unusual, weird, awkward stuff, you know, like 2 major events, I guess, or not major, but 2 events. And the first one was I was in North Dakota, and I had new rear tires shipped to basically the last biggest town I could find in North Dakota, which was Minot, North Dakota. So I had new rear shipped to there so I could ensure that when I crossed the border into Canada, all the way to NSXPO, I would have tires. Because NSX likes to eat rear tires, and I wanted brand new ones. So I shipped tires to a tire shop there. The night prior, I stayed in, it's like Devil or Devil's Lake, somewhere in North Dakota, this campground that I found on an island in the lake. And there was a bridge to get there. And I pull in, and this point's, it's like the end of August, so light's still long. It's 9 o'clock, dusk. There's one other camper in this campground, and they're at the other end of the campground. I found a great campsite right next to the water, set up my tent, hang out till maybe 10:30, and I go in my tent to go to sleep. And probably from my tent, it's probably about, like, let's say 400 feet, and there's a pier or dock that had a boat launch, and I see some lights lighting up my tent. And so I kind of unzip and I poke my head out, and down near the boat launch, there's a headlamp light moving around, and it turns off. And so I'm like, okay, all right, you know, like it's probably the other person in the campground. And so I go to sleep, and I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning.
Now, hold up. Before you go to sleep, are you kind of wondering what's going on, or do you just immediately go to sleep because you're so used to this light?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, is like there's a degree of like I just have to turn off a lot of the fear when it comes to this, you know, like
absolutely
assess the fear, but also don't let it control you.
Right.
So I just kind of turn it off. Like it's probably the other person in the campground. Logically, there should be no one else here, so it's probably that person. And then I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and I have one of those. I kind of gotta pee, but I can kind of also maybe roll back over and go to sleep and not pee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I should just get up and go pee. So I just kind of, you know, yank my zipper of my tent fast, open it, and I poke my head out, and at exactly the same place where that headlamp was, a headlamp turns on at 4:30 in the morning.
Okay.
Like, because it heard, at least I think it heard my zipper open, right? And
sound travels like a mug.
Yep. And so I watch this headlamp, and then I watch the headlamp turn off. And there's enough light, like ambient light from the moon, where I can see like from me to the light, but obviously I can't see the light. So I could see, like, if anybody, I guess, was to get closer, I could kind of see them in the grass area. But
no silhouettes or anything?
no, but I got up and went pee and just went back to sleep, and just tried to like roll over and not trying to think too heavily on that. But I thought it was just really odd. And it's like, reflecting back on that, I don't know if maybe they woke me up, right? Not my pee.
Sure.
So the second one was my first night on the Alaska-Canada Highway, which is, the Alcan's famous road, obviously, to get from Alaska all the way into, or from Canada all the way into Alaska. And I didn't quite know what I was going to do for sleeping the first night, but I had found that they're basically like little fishing ponds kind of scattered off a couple spots. They called them like a pit site or something along those lines. And so I had one picked out, and I'm rolling into it about dusk. And as I'm rolling into this campsite, the turn off into it goes over a railroad track. But I mean, it's like 100 feet off the Alcan is this campsite. And so as I'm turning into it, the road's a bit jacked up. So I'm basically approaching it a little bit further on the entrance, and my window's down, and it's dusk. The sun is set. And as I'm pulling in, there's a guy pushing a bicycle wearing all black.
Of course.
Leaving the campsite. Yeah. And I thought about making some like smart ass witty comment like, oh, it wasn't good enough for you or something, right? But I made eye contact with this guy, and I didn't say anything. And I just went in the campsite, and I ended up camping there. But, like in my mind, I'm thinking, where's this dude going? There's not a town for 50 miles, and you're wearing all black on a bicycle at night. Like, what is a better campsite than where we're at?
What did you just do?
Basically.
Yeah.
And so another one of those things where it's just kind of have to override it, but thinking, like, man, it's really odd. And like, the thing is, I try and also understand is like, man, like I'm a trusting, kind guy. And I think everybody has good intention for the most part, but I also have to understand is like the characters you run into out in the wilderness, may or may not, be mentally healthy or may not be running from something either, and so it's just, I try and understand like there's some dangerous people out there, and they see $100,000 car and a guy get out of it and sleep in a tent next to it, maybe some thoughts creep into their mind.
What kind of tent do you have? Because you keep bringing up the tent, I keep thinking, because we have a couple 7-footers that we've camped in like once, but do you have like a traditional, I don't know, tent? Do you have like a dome tent? Do you have something that comes off your car?
No, it'd be just like a small backpacker's tent. So it's supposed to be a 2-man, but like looking at this table, it's like 1.5 of these wide.
Okay, so pretty small.
Yep, and you can't stand up in it.
Okay.
The ceiling's probably 4 feet maybe, and but it's a big Agnes backpacking tent. First night on the Alcan, one of the tent poles broke. Because I mean, I wish I knew. I was telling my friend yesterday, I said, man, like I'd like to have a counter on how many nights I've stayed in this specific tent, because it's hundreds for sure.
Right.
I just don't know how many, but I fixed the broken pole and I've been kind of stubborn enough to still use it.
Do you use the car as like kind of one of your walls? Does that make sense? So
yeah,
you pitch the tent like literally right next to the car?
No, so certain situations, yes, but most situations I prefer not to do that. And the thought I have is I was actually driving my red NSX in 2018 to San Francisco.
How many do you have that you can drive?
Right now, just one, but I do have 3 NSXs, but 2 of them are pieces.
Parts cars, or you're assembling?
Assembling. So, but I was driving in 2018 to San Francisco, and I was somewhere in Nevada, I believe, and I just saw a little campground sign, so I pulled over kind of right off the interstate, and there was a lake, and I just set up my tent right next to the NSX, and right before I didn't even set up a tent, actually. I just threw my mat on the ground, but right before I fell asleep, I got thinking, like, once again, I guess I would think of it as a crime of opportunity, right? So, like, somebody pulls into a campground or place, and they see this car, and then they see the tent next to the car. it starts to possibly put a scenario in their mind where they say that, oh, the keys for this car are in that tent. So what I usually typically try and do if I have the option is to give myself like at the vantage point and put my car somewhere and then have a line of sight 200 feet away or 100 feet away behind a tree. So at least maybe I can have the first look as opposed to somebody having the first look at me. And sometimes it works out better than others, but that's typically what I would prefer to do. If I'm in an actual campground, then it doesn't matter, but just kind of off campground camping, that's how I'm going to try and play it.
You consider yourself a light sleeper?
No. I mean, I guess I can wake up easily, but I'm pretty good at, like sleeping through some things. That's, I mean, you mentioned, Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis. I didn't get to see any on the trip, and ultimately there's probably a good possibility that I slept through some of it. Like it probably did happen at some certain point, but, it was basically going from very, very early in the morning all day. So typically when it gets dark, when you're camping, you really don't have anything to do. So I'm basically kind of just sleeping through the night. I'd wake up a time or two and take a peek, but I never saw any.
Do you ever, do you do like the traditional camping thing that we see on TV all the time? Or you're pitching your tent, you're making your fire, all that stuff, or you basically just pull in, pop your tent up, eat your oatmeal, go to sleep, get up in the morning and keep moving?
Pretty much that. There's, I haven't had a single fire on the entire trip. A lot of it because, like Canada.
Well, on this trip specifically, right?
Yeah,
but just overall, do you ever just do that?
Yeah, I mean, overall, sometimes fires, but overall, no. And I'm also not the type of guy that's like spending a whole heck of a lot of time in the campground, so it'd be more of like I am pulling in, I'm setting up my tent, whether it be at dusk or with my headlamp, get my whole sleeping kit set up, and then, like basically think about going to bed, whatever little bit I need to do. And also too, if I have cell signal or even if I don't, just with offline maps, a little bit of decompression is basically try and, think about tomorrow and like really look at the map and make sure I'm not missing something great, which inevitably also happens too. Like we were joking earlier, it's like I've got maps of things I didn't do, so there's a lot of things that I would like to try and hit. And I'm just trying to make sure like I'm not going to drive past something epic and not know about it.
Do you find it easier to fall asleep being so disconnected from electronics? And I ask that because I remember being a kid and going to like grandma's house and everyone's in bed by like 7:30. You're watching Benny Hill or something on TV and you look up and it's 8:30 and you're ready for bed. When you're at home, you're up till 11:30, 12.
Yeah.
Same thing going camping. It's like sometimes you stay up late if there's a bunch of people, but if you're by yourself, maybe you just go to bed as soon as it gets dark outside.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, I have a good job just matching the mood.
Yeah.
So if there's not much going on, I'm probably going to be going to sleep.
Because we're going to the club after this.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay, all right. Just so you know.
For sure.
Yep.
For sure on a school night.
Yep, on the school night. Let me ask you this, because I was wondering, like I said, I spent a lot of time thinking in the shower. Mm-hmm. So I knew you were coming over, so I was thinking about you again in the shower, just so you know, right?
Good. Most people do.
Yes. You're either at a campground or you're at a hostel. I'm guessing, KOA is out of the picture. But, if you're not doing those two, are you always finding a hotel, or is there ever a time where you're like, this is a random plot of land, it looks cool, I could be in and out in the morning? Like, do you ever just randomly pick something?
Oh, certainly. It's just guerrilla camping, and like there's all sorts of places that I've camped that I'm not supposed to, and I know that like, I mean, I've done it a whole bunch on this trip. I've stayed in places that you're not supposed to stay. I've stayed in campgrounds that have been closed or whatever, but it's like, the way I kind of view it, right, is like overall, I have a very low impact of what I'm doing.
Right.
But also overall too, is like if I was to, I guess for lack of a better term, get, investigated or harassed by the park ranger or the police, like my answer is going to be, dude, I was tired.
Yeah.
And I needed a place to sleep. The difficulty with like truly tent camping like I am, as opposed to having a tent on top of your roof of a vehicle, which is extremely common now. But I can't like pull over on the one in California at a roadside pull off and set my tent up on the ground.
Right.
But you can pull over and have a rooftop tent open up. So effectively, like, I'm shut out from a lot of like camping spots or cool camping areas that sprinter vans or rooftop tents have access to. So I got to be a little bit more unorthodox and kind of a little bit off the beaten path to find a place to actually set my tent up.
Yeah, because that thought came to me, obviously knowing you were coming here, but just in the road trip that I just took with JC. Driving back, obviously, because you do this. For people who fly everywhere, you don't realize this, but there's a lot of times where you're just... No, you're fine. He's pouring his... I don't know. I don't even know if the microphone's going to pick that up or not. I'm going to leave it in there anyway. Yeah. Well, but, there's a lot of time where you're just staring out the window when you're driving. You're just thinking, right? I'm a thinker, and I'm like, I see all this land out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, we are 20, 30 miles away from anything. Whoever owns this land, unless they have little thumpers or something, or little motion cameras everywhere, like, what are the odds I could just pull into one of these places if I just had to, spend the night and leave early in the morning? Like, how would they know? Or even more nefariously, it's like, if I wanted to bury somebody, how long would it take them to find this person on their land? Those are thoughts that I have. I'm not crazy. And that's what made me think. I was like, I wonder if I just needed a place to sleep really quick, like off the path, so the highway robbers don't pull me over and stab me to death while I'm on the side of the road. I could probably pull off the road and just be gone in the morning.
I mean, definitely. And that's something that's pretty much key with a lot of that is you got to be up early.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to try and sleep until 8 o'clock like that's going to...
Probably not a good idea.
Well, it just increases your chances to get caught, for lack of a better term. But if like you're busting camp right at sunrise, then you can usually be in and out and not have to worry. But yeah, I find there's lots of opportunities for guerrilla camping. What the difficulty is in the NSX is just road conditions. There's a lot of places that I could camp, have awesome campsites. Like I was in NorCal, near Bodega Bay, kind of near Sebastopol area. And there were 2 really great campsites that I literally, one, I guess, speed bump, I guess, for lack of a better term, denied me access and my car couldn't make it. And so I knew from that speed bump to the campground, it was like less than a mile walk, but I wasn't really feeling like leaving my car and walking a mile. But, like I got shut out because the road condition didn't allow my low car there. And had I been in anything else, I would have made it. So that's another difficulty too, is like a lot of the campsites and the campgrounds and stuff and the data that I get as far as camping, I'll show up and be like, well, this isn't made for a sports car. So I have to turn around and figure out some other option.
What are some of your favorite places to eat when you're out on the road?
Well, I mean, usually it's grocery stores.
Yeah.
Like I like going and doing just random, yogurt and banana and...
Tell everybody what your normal... And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, man. Like you told Yvette and I earlier, and I was like, oh, that actually makes sense for a number of reasons. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what they feed sports teams typically as well. So, I mean, what is your typical meal when you don't decide to pull over? And because you're not probably hitting fast food.
No, I mean, there's a time or two where you break down and, I've been hiking 15 miles and I'm just going to get some hamburger and fries. But predominantly, a lot of oatmeal and a lot of peanut butter and banana sandwiches, for most of the, camping backpack and stuff. Can't obviously carry any perishables with me.
Right.
So it's got to be stuff that I can last. And, nut butters are really good too. I carry a bunch of those with me.
Like honey?
Yeah, a little bit.
Peanut butter and honey, dude. It's great.
Yeah, it's one of the classic comforts.
All white, or you get like multi-grain bread?
Kind of depends, honestly. I'm usually like whatever's on sale type shopper. So, or if I can find something somewhat like from a bakery would be ideal. But yeah, a lot of that, a lot of grocery store picking. And then also too, I rely heavily on Google, whatever little restaurant or whatever is in the area and sift through and figure out, is this one going to be a good fit or are they truly good or whatever. But I like trying restaurants and I like trying food and I like experiencing it all, like I've got plenty of coffee with me, but I also still, if I see a great coffee shop, I'm going to stop in and try it, because that's part of travel.
Got a few more questions for you.
That's it.
That's it. The first one is, So we kind of skirted over this earlier. Like you love doing the outdoor stuff. You love doing the hiking. You hike incredibly fast. You told us a story earlier. Where does that come from? Because I think you like hiking and you go to all the cool spots. You like driving and you camp out of your car, which isn't normal, especially for an NSX. And you should be driving around in like a Tacoma or a Tundra or something, but you choose to take this car and then you go on these incredibly long walks. You've done 10, 15 miles a day. Then you get back in your car. Then you do other shit. Mm-hmm. Like, where does that passion come from? And what are your favorite places to go, or what are your top 3 places you've been?
Well, good questions. I'd say probably the initial passion for outdoors and adventure would just be my parents, right? Like growing up, they took us on cool road trips, and hiking and outdoors was a big part of, our family. So we would do a lot of that. So, as I got older, I still enjoyed those things.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It truly is, man. I love it. And I feel like more people need to be doing it. But
your parents are still with us?
Yep. So still they're hiking around and adventuring around as well. Not an NSX, but they're still staying busy. And
do they think you're crazy?
Yeah, well, I think probably one of the stories that cracked me, or one of the comments that cracked me up on this trip was, so I have a Starlink Roam, which is the mini Starlink that allowed me to have internet this entire trip, and I mount it under the rear glass of the NSX, and overall it worked out great. Sometimes phone calls were a bit spotty, but I was able to keep all my group chats and my text and stream Spotify and use internet data the entire trip. But I think my parents, have accepted that I'm always going to do wild and crazy stuff. So they kind of just maybe don't pay as much attention to what exactly it is, which may help them, ignorance is bliss, right? But I sent a group text to the family chat that I was leaving Fairbanks because I didn't quite know when I was going to actually make the push to the Arctic Circle. And so I sent a group text that I was leaving to go on the Arctic Circle. I made the call. I'm going to do it today. And my mom said, have fun. And then I took a picture like 10 or 15 miles on the Dalton Highway of my car and sent it over on the group chat. And my mom said, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Turn around. And
that was quick.
Yeah. And I'm like laughing in my head because, within an hour ago, you were telling me to go have fun. And I don't maybe think that she really realized what I had gotten myself into. Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that kind of cracked me up, but it's the mentality that it's like, ships aren't made for the harbor, and like cars aren't made for the garage. They're made to go out and do it. So
Amen.
That's what I was out there, trying to involve myself with. Hiking and just
what are your especially on this trip, but what are the 2 or 3 places you've gone to that you just love?
This trip especially is Banff, Canada. I had extremely high expectations because everybody had spoke so highly of this place. It's just the coolest place ever, and okay, we'll see.
Right.
And so I got there and it blew them all out of the water. I really was taken with that place, and I could spend a year and hiking around that area and still not really scratch the surface, in my opinion, because there's just so much to do there. Denali National Park in Alaska was really incredible too, and I caught that kind of like right at the tail of the peak of the color change up there, which was real phenomenal to see. And
are you ever worried when you do these hikes? Because some of these national parks and places, they're wild.
Oh yeah, well, hence the name. Bear spray, it's about the cheapest insurance you can do.
Any close encounters?
I seen a big grizzly on the side of the road in Canada, and then seen 5 from the bus tour in Denali. And Denali, you can only drive, I think, like maybe 16 miles into the park. Mm-hmm. But if you want to go to the rest of the way in the park, you got to take a bus tour. So we saw 5 grizzlies on the bus tour. But I've run into grizzlies in the backcountry, like on foot in the past, none on this trip, which I was honestly a bit surprised because I did a lot this trip. But yeah, bear spray is about the only thing you can really have. Canada, you're not allowed to have a gun, so it's like, and to me, I don't really even want to carry a gun, really, like, so I'm not afraid of wildlife,
Right.
obviously more, I guess nervous on wild interactions with other people out in the backcountry than actual wildlife. But Banff, incredible hiking. And then probably like the other spot, which, has always been cool to me anyways, is Pacific Northwest, and specifically like the Olympic Peninsula. So after NSXPO, I spent like 5 days doing a big ring loop of the whole Olympic Peninsula and just checking out like the Hoh Rainforest, which was unbelievable, and the whole coastline there. And yeah, there's just Olympic Peninsula is a really cool place. The Pacific Northwest is really cool. There's just a lot to do here, but it's also very difficult because every single day there's only so many hours and I can only do so much. And for a basically 3-month trip, like time is very finite, even though it seems like a lot. Like I don't have a lot of like days when I'm doing nothing.
Sure.
So, yeah, those areas would probably jump out as the top ones. And then throughout California, I really haven't done too much actual camping. It's kind of the past, as this trip kind of wraps up, I'm going to be doing less camping because it's more basically friend to friend to friend, work my way home. There may be maybe one opportunity to pitch my tent from here, but I could probably honestly box everything up and ship it home and not use it for the next, 14 days that I'm on the road or 10 days that I'm on the road.
If you wanted to, I know that I have a nice foresty area back here.
Oh yeah.
That we prepared just for you. Like I showed you earlier, we got a bunch of trees planted today, just for you. Perfect timing. How do you, I have this thing that I say this to myself, and it's not 100% true, but I try to be this way. But sometimes at the end of the day, you are who you are, right? Mm-hmm. But I have said that I don't have time for people who don't have time for me. And at the end of the day, you still end up giving people your time, even though they just continuously don't really have time for you or don't think about you. You've made it a point to stop and see a lot of people on this road trip. A lot of people. But then there's probably a lot of people you don't have time to stop and see that you would like to see. How do you decide? Because I know that you do change course depending on who it is you have to see, and you try to make it work. Like, how do you come to that decision of stopping and seeing, and knowing that a lot of the people that you see, we all love you.
Yeah.
But people have their own lives, right? And, would they do the same for you? Probably not. But that doesn't change who you are. So how do you decide, and why do you do it?
A good question. I mean, I'd say initially starting the trip, there'd be like a certain percentile of like must-sees, like 40% or 50% of people that like I have to see on this trip. Mm-hmm. Like obviously here being one of them. But
I'm happy because I'm like, maybe if you're in town to see Tyson, then maybe I'm just, glad I'm living in the same town.
Tyson's another one of those too. Yeah, for sure. But then, I do leave some room for possible opportunity of like a new friend or a new opportunity as well, or somebody I may have forgotten about and has an open opportunity. But, a lot of it takes like basically this, like this swirling mental thing that's going on of like, where am I going to be in 7 to 10 days? Who do I know that's there? I need to start the conversation now about their schedule, my schedule. Can it all work out? And just see who bites really, and so it's like I may cast 10 or 20 lines depending on what city I'm in, because I'm really well networked nationwide. And so if somebody bites on a line, then I'll try and accommodate and set up a schedule, like when I joked earlier, it's like I got lunch and dinner plans, like the remainder of the trip pretty much, because I'm trying to lock these people in for certain times. And I've also found just generally in life, the way friends work too is like if I throw 1 or 2, lines out and they're not reciprocated, that I just understand that, they're busy or it's just not the right time.
It's not personal.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to like, the thing is about friendship, right, is you can't force friends.
Yeah.
So if they're not able to make it happen, then that's okay, but it is difficult too, because, I have lots of friends that I didn't get to see on this trip. I mean, I just left LA a couple of days ago, and it's like there's like probably easily 10 to 20 people that I really wanted to see in LA that it's like, it didn't work out. And, just how it goes.
Yeah.
So, you know, and obviously I'm supposed to be at the right places at the right time, but I'm going to try and figure out, you know, as many people as I can possibly see. And so it's kind of funny, right? Because it's like on the way to Key West, I met up with 3 different NSX owners in South Florida, and I literally had hour windows with each of them. So we hung out for 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. I was passing through San Francisco a couple of days ago, and I had forgotten about an ex-NSX owner that I'd never met, but we were friends. I gave him about 2 hours notice, and he restructures his whole morning, and I stopped by and hang out with him for an hour. So, you know, it's like I have to realize that I got to take these hour opportunities with everybody, you know, and it's like sometimes a bummer because it's like things are awesome for that hour, but literally that's all the time we got.
Yeah.
You know, and so I guess maybe closer, more tight-knit friends that are the must-sees, you know, I obviously try and accommodate a little bit more timing for them because I want to kind of immerse myself in our friendship a little bit deeper. But I'll take any amount of time with anybody that I can physically make happen.
Yeah, that's cool because back when I used to travel all the time, when I would get a new job at a new site, I used to be like, hey guys, I just landed a contract in your city. Who's available? You know, what night can we go out to happy hour, or we could just meet together at dinner somewhere. So I get that. And that it's the same deal. You reminded me of that when you said you just cast all those lines out there and see who you catch. But yeah, it sucks for the people you can't spend time with. For those of us that you can, we truly appreciate it and love it.
Yeah. And something that I guess I will add to that too, that I just thought of is what's also blown me away is like, just like the reception, I guess, maybe that I get from certain individuals that I didn't expect, you know, like, there's a girl in, Portland, Jhae, and she's got an MK4 Supra and she's got a rooftop tent on it.
Oh, how cool.
And she was friends with Chris Cutt.
Mm-hmm.
And so she drove her Supra cross country and camped out of her Supra. And so her and I like missed each other on the tail of the Dragon right near where I live by like minutes when she did this trip. So we've stayed in communication and we ended up getting together and hung out for an evening when I was in Portland. But she had mentioned my my Supra hadn't been running in like 4 months and I got it running to meet you.
Oh, wow.
And then like NSX Lawn in Oceanside, California, same thing. Like I haven't driven my NSX in 4 months. I drove it out to meet you. You know, and other people like that. And it's just like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of humbling, I guess, for lack of a better term, because it's like, man, I'm just trying to go out and have fun and hang out with people, but people want to make serious efforts to be involved in this trip. And, you know, I've gotten many thanks from many friends about like, thank you for including me in this, you know, which like to me, I'm like, well, dude, you're putting me up for the night. Thank you. You know, exactly. So it's like, it's tough, but a lot of people just want to like be a part of it, which is really cool to share it because, you know, that's basically what it boils down with life is like, we're all sharing experiences together, you know, and that's kind of what a podcast is too, right? It's just sharing our general experience.
Yeah. And I know Chris was planning on doing that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, him and Cassius, and then obviously that didn't work out. So I think for people who are able to do that, it's great,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you're not that guy, you know, we had a conversation before the banquet
Mm-hmm.
about, you know, the banquet, you know, you're not that guy. You don't want the praise, you know, but I think that's the magical part of being you and people who get an opportunity to know you. This is not a question I typically ask people, even though they're in the NSX family, but I know how much you love the car. I know how much you love going to NSXPOs. You know, that's one of the 2 events I circle every year.
Mm-hmm.
The other one's Monterey Car Week, and I don't go all the time, but I still want to know when it is. What has NSX ownership meant to you?
Tough question. Pretty much everything. I don't really know, I guess, where I would be without this car, you know, like as simple as that is, you know, and like, I bought it because it was something that I always thought was amazing and cool and revered it, right? Just on its purely mechanical aspect. But like NSX ownership to me has basically been the opportunity to share something and also share something of myself with everyone who wants to say yes, and yeah, I don't know, man. It's really been life-changing buying this 30-year-old Honda. And, like something I did want to add, not to detract from the question, but speaking of Chris Cut, is on this trip, the two people that I really, kept close to me on the trip, because I knew there were two people that would have respected it and enjoyed what I was doing, was Chris Cut and then John Vassos. And, I had even, kind of joked, it's like, I know John would have loved what I'm doing, but he also would have scratched his head a lot at what I was doing.
He absolutely would have. Yeah. He would have said, what the fuck?
Basically. But, keeping those two guys close, right? Because obviously the NSX meant a lot to those two guys. And just to like, I guess pay homage to them on the trip, because I know that they would appreciate it. So, but all I can do is really, every day, like I've probably said before on this thing, is just keep sharing this car with people every single day, and every single day it gets better and better to do it, because more and more opportunity and more people come into my life because of this car. So it's every single day I keep saying, yes, I want to get out there and share it.
Because you've had the most random people just come up to you.
Oh yeah.
Not even just NSX owners, because I mean, people who are part of other car communities, whether it's the Porsche Club, Ferrari Club, Lamborghini Club, they realize there's something very special about the NSX owner. And I'm not quite sure why that is, what makes us so different and unique, because our lives are so different, and the car just kind of brings us together.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, a couple possible thoughts on that would be like, number one, there's a Honda marketing slogan, and they actually had it at HQ in Torrance when I was there last weekend. Across the wall is, you meet the nicest people in a Honda. And it's like, I truly 100% believe that, and why that is, like, I just think a lot of ego gets checked at the door with Hondas. You're not coming into it with any delusions of who you're about. It's like, it's a piece of machinery, and it does something incredible, and it runs for a long time and is reliable. And, so it's like your ego gets checked at the door. And, yeah, I don't know. It's tough, because I think even if you are, let's say, a current Ferrari owner or a current Lamborghini owner or hypercar owner, I think if you have some sort of Honda like lineage or pedigree, right, like I think that's going to stick with you. But the guys that bought a Ferrari or a Lamborghini without that, also have a certain, I guess, approach to their car ownership. And it may not be as friendly or as accommodating as a Honda owner, but I'll stand by it till the end of time that you meet the nicest people in a Honda. So super cool. And I'm super thankful that, I, number one, have the opportunity to do this, right? Because this trip to me was a test of myself, right? Like, could I do this? But also ultimately, could this car that was hand built in Japan 30 years ago, pretty much in its same configuration, do something like this, that no other real supercar could possibly consider doing, and like on both accounts, success, right? Which I was optimistic, but you never know till you go.
Johnny, thanks for coming by. You are out of Coca-Cola, so we'll just have to figure out, we got to get to the club, right?
At some point tonight.
All right, we got to get to the club, so thank you so much for coming by Hard Park.
No, it was a real pleasure. I mean, I thank you and your family and just everybody for having me by, so it means a lot.
From the closet calls to the studio.
Yep. What's next?
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Wow, what an amazing story. What an amazing trip. What an amazing person. One of the things that we didn't get an opportunity to talk about, and when Johnny left, he was like, man, I forgot to talk about this. But, He's really big on no coincidences. He's very strong. He has a perfect zen within his world and within himself, that the universe is what brings things together. One of the cool stories is, when I was driving from here in Arizona on my way to NSXPO, I was coming over from Spokane, Washington, day 4, I think, of the trip. And the first vehicle I see on the freeway is him and his NSX. And I'm also the first NSX he saw on his trip to NSXPO. I see that and I go, wow, what a crazy coincidence. But Johnny correctly, I would say correctly corrected me and said, there's no such thing as coincidences. The universe brought us together. I was supposed to run into him that day on the freeway. Now, for full context, he was just coming into the United States down from his trip in Canada. And this was during rush hour. So at any given time on a major freeway, there are tens of thousands of vehicles within a 5 to 6 mile stretch, especially when you're talking about the Seattle area, another major metropolitan area. And the odds, like, we could probably try to time that and say, hey, man, let me know when you're at this exit and I'm at this exit, and then we can try to meet up. Even if we did that, it would be very hard to recreate that strange occurrence where you have a first-gen white NSX with white wheels running into a second-gen white NSX with white wheels. Of course, both headed to NSXPO, which that in itself wasn't a coincidence. That in itself was supposed to actually happen, and it did happen. But I hope you guys really enjoyed that. And make sure you follow him at NSX Explore. There are articles of him out there, a tremendous person, and I hope you really enjoyed that. Leave a comment below if you're watching this, and let us know what your favorite part of that interview conversation was. Hey guys, so I wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit. I forgot to even bring up this part after I recorded my thoughts, my reflections on Johnny being here in studio. But again, the crazy thing about the universe kind of bringing people together, it's almost as if we live in a simulation, because I forgot the craziest thing wasn't even Johnny and I running into each other on the highway, which is super nutty. Like, you have to admit, that is some wild shit. But when we were sitting here, after we got done recording, we looked up the 2 times he was on Hard Parking. The first time he was ever on was episode 10. This episode right now is 300. Episode 10, so 290 episodes ago, November 8th of 2019, was the first time he was on the show. I'm pretty sure that time I was in the closet. The next time he joined, and this is when it gets really crazy, guys, October 26th of 2020 was the second episode drop, which means I would have recorded it the prior week at some point. But the episode dropped on October 26th of 2020. 2 crazy things. Chris Cut NS Extra was also on that episode. And we recorded this episode, episode 300, on October 26, 2025. 5 years to the day that his second appearance dropped, and he recorded his third appearance here in studio. That is nuts, and that is all. Well, another month, another closing. If you like what you heard today or like what you watched today, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Then make sure you go and tell a friend all about it. I want to thank our sponsors, Right Honda and Right Toyota, SparkForge AI from Marcus Foundry, one login, one platform, all under your control, AutoCannon officially licensed Honda and Acura gear. Can't forget Patreon business supporter, Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida, Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owings Mills, Maryland, The Lucky Brakes out of Caledonia, Michigan, Beak House Small Home Design out of Ashbury, Virginia, and Traverse City, Michigan, and Shaping Success Treasure Valley out of Boise, Idaho. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, you can join the Patreon at patreon.com/hardparkingpodcast, or you can become a member on YouTube. There's a buy me a coffee option there. If you want to support the show, if you get value, if this is one of your favorite shows to watch, why not support it? Special thanks to Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Graves, Byron Jones, Bo Jung, Alistair Mina, Drew Bunkley, and Dre Mullins. Questions, comments, or concerns, leave a comment below or email the show info@hardparking. Follow the show on Instagram @hardparkingpod. And make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. And I will see you guys next week.
Now it's stripping time.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Shut up!